AAPI phone banking across the country. Following today's program at 7:30 p.m., we'll be joining key battleground states, including Nevada, Texas, North Carolina, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Arizona, and others to phone bank and contact AAPI voters and the AAPI community directly. We have a lot to look forward to this week, including from the wonderful speakers we have on today's program. But before we start that, I wanted to highlight a policy that we believe is so important to our AAPI community across the country, and that's providing our AAPI youth a safe learning environment. And that is why Vice President Biden and Senator Harris have released a roadmap to reopening schools safely. As we all know, it's back to school time, but too many classrooms across the country are empty because President Trump didn't have a plan to address COVID-19 and still doesn't have a plan today to safely reopen schools. President Trump's done the work, he hasn't done the work that's necessary to ensure all schools can open safely and effectively. He hasn't gotten the virus under control in our AAPI communities. He hasn't issued detailed apolitical guidance. He hasn't provided the resources schools need. And parents and kids are getting screwed as a result, unfortunately. And President Trump isn't listening to experts or scientists. He's barreling forward trying to reopen schools because he thinks it will help his own reelection. We all want our schools to open, to get kids back into the classroom, to help parents get back to work, to allow educators to do what they love most, but it has to be done safely. And that requires hard work and a plan informed by science. Joe and Kamala, they understand the challenges families, AAPI families, and educators are facing. The fear and anxiety of their kids getting sick, their kids falling behind with more time out of the classroom, or giving up while their kids are home. As president, those AAPI families, kids, and educators are going to be their top priorities, and they'll immediately get to work for them. So with that, I want to introduce some of our amazing speakers today to tell you a little bit more about these policies and why it's so important that our AAPI youth have safe learning environments that they can grow and function in. So with that, I'd like to invite our first speaker, Neera Tanden. Neera Tanden is the CEO of the Center for American Progress Action Fund. She previously served as Senior Advisor for Health Reform at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. In that role, she developed policies around reform and worked with Congress and stakeholders on particular provisions of the Obama-Biden administration's signature legislative achievement, the Affordable Care Act. Prior to that, Neera was a director of domestic policy for the Obama-Biden presidential campaign, where she managed all domestic policy proposals. With that, I'd like to introduce Neera Tanden.
Thank you so much. I'm really honored to be part of this conversation. I'm particularly honored to be speaking with you with so many other fantastic leaders, leaders who have done so much to represent the Asian American community and really to represent the country. I'm just honored to be with Mr. Khan and Ms. Kwan, who are, again, just fantastic leaders. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Biden-Harris plan on school reopening. And I would start really with first and foremost point, and the Vice President talked about this today in an event with the future First Lady, Jill Biden, who, as we all know, is an educator and has been working on issues around education and ensuring that every child has access to a good quality education for years and years. So the first issue is really making sure that we fight the virus. I think what's really central to reopening is school reopening, safe school reopening, is to ensure that the virus itself is basically beaten back. It's containable. So the first part of the Biden-Harris plan is to ensure that schools that are considering reopening should really address the prevalence of the virus in the community. What that means is where you see virus spikes, where you're at 10, 20, 30% positivity rates, schools really shouldn't reopen. And where you're seeing very low positivity rates, which is happening in the Northeast right now, schools can consider reopening. And why that's really important is that we do know that children can spread the virus. And children can spread the virus to their parents, and they can spread the virus to their grandparents. So the hallmark of the Biden-Harris plan on the virus has always been, from the beginning, listening to scientists, listening to experts, and keeping our families safe. So that's why ensuring that we are aware of what the virus positivity rate is and why that's the central concern is, and that's sort of the leverage point of whether you open or don't open, has been such a key component of their plan. And that's in stark contrast to the president. President Trump has urged schools to reopen whether the virus is out of control or whether the virus is not out of control. And honestly, from a public health perspective, that puts our children at risk. Now, I think we all recognize that in school learning is the best learning. I have a child myself who's 15, who's doing Zoom learning now. It's really suboptimal. But the truth is that the United States is basically alone amongst developed countries in not being able to contain the virus. And that is because we've never had a national plan, and we've never had a national plan because Donald Trump has never had a national plan. So really, and the vice president spoke about this today, one of the reasons why we have so many children distance learning, and really the central reason why we have so many children distance learning, which is so incredibly unfortunate, is because the United States has never had a national plan. So having a national plan to combat the virus is a central component of the Biden-Harris administration, which will help reopen our schools. But that's not the only issue. We do need to make sure that schools have the resources they need to provide PPE to teachers and to students, and the resources they need to ensure real sanitation. That calls for billions of dollars, which the Biden-Harris plan basically adopts, says we need to invest in our schools to ensure that they are as safe as possible for all our students and our teachers. We are seeing that in school, even schools that are able to reopen, you're seeing a rash of teachers who are retiring because of safety concerns. And that is a central concern. We do need to make sure that teachers and parents feel safe to bring their kids in because the virus is under control in their community and there's enough PPE. And then finally, we need to ensure that we're providing resources to students who are challenged in these particular times, students with disabilities, students with particular challenges. And I think I just like to say, I'd like to close with one final word, which is, the AAPI community has, like myself, my family, my kids go to public schools. We really rely on a good functioning public school system that works for every child. And when we have a public school system or schools that aren't working for our children, it hurts all of us. And I think this is the issue of school reopening is really one of those issues that connects everything to the virus. The fact that we have no national plan to contain the virus, like every other country, where we stand alone in having no national plan. The virus has raged out of control in many states with the Republican governors who've listened to the president about reopening too early, and none of us are safe. And that's why we are still dealing with the fact that 1,000 Americans a day are tragically dying from this virus, in which other countries are seeing dozens or a handful of people dying a day, Germany, UK, France. So in closing, I'd just like to say the Biden-Harris plan is one based on science. It's one where we contain the virus, and then our schools and our families can ensure that all our children are learning where they need to, how they need to, and in schools like they need to. So with that, I'll turn it back to you.
Thanks so much for that, Neera. We really appreciate that. Next, I would like to introduce someone that needs no introductions and Gold Star Father Khizr Khan. Mr. Khan has been an early supporter of Vice President Biden and is an advocate for the AAPI and veterans communities. He most recently provided the opening roll call for the state of Virginia during the Democratic National Convention a couple weeks ago. With that, I would like to introduce Mr. Kizer Khan.
Amit, thank you. Thank you. First, I wish to express my gratitude and respect to you all for joining today. I am honored to be with Neera Tanden, Michelle Kwan, of course, Howard O, Sierra, Yamanaka, Raseli, Bongalan. Thank you for your leadership. And I'm just honored and humble. I remind us to never forget or underestimate the power of our platform, the power of our efforts, our vote, our activism. History is witness to the great contributions that all immigrant Americans make to make America stronger and prosperous. Asian American votes are the fastest growing electorate in the country, and we will play a decisive role in the coming election. And we will elect the leaders who support and elevate us, elevate our families, and understand our issues. Let me make something very clear. Asian Americans will make the difference in this election if we get out and vote. Our country is confronting a series of monumental challenges. The COVID-19 pandemic continues its rampage. Tens of millions of people are out of work. America is also confronting the systemic racial injustice. Throughout our history, when we stand united, we can overcome anything. Angry and divisive politics of Trump and mute Republicans, I call them mute Republicans because they have not stood with America, they stand with Trump. That is no answer. The country is crying out for leadership, leadership that can unite us, leadership that can bring us together. Crises come to every president. America had hoped that Donald Trump will rise to the occasion and dignify the office of the president and commander-in-chief. But he has failed our Constitution, our rule of law, our democracy, and our troops. Just one example, Donald Trump in 2017 abandoned the Obama-Biden-created pandemic warning office in the White House, which could have early warned us of the pandemic. His slow and incompetent response is partly responsible for over 188,000 deaths. It saddens me to cite these numbers. And almost 6 million infections. Our condolences to the coronavirus victims. Please follow the advice of our healthcare professionals. Trump inherited, Obama-Biden created longest lasting prosperous economy, which under Trump lies ruined. Millions unemployed, small businesses closed, children out of school. Donald Trump continues to threat to defund Social Security, Medicare, our post office when we need it most. And he takes money from our armed forces to build his failed wall. The 26th president, Theodore Roosevelt, had said, patriotism is standing by your country. Patriotism does not mean standing by the president. As Joe Biden has said, by standing determined and together, we will come out of this pandemic stronger and rise as a symbol of hope and dignity for ourselves, our children, and the world. We also remember the travel ban, the very first act of President Trump. Children in cages, families separated. We remember, and we will remember on November 3rd. The reason I cite this, so that as a community, we all remember, and through you, every other member of the community remembers what difficulties we had gone through, we are going through. From Virginia to Nevada, the impact of Asian American voters in 2016 and 2018, and we will be powerful force in 2020 as well. Your time has made you candle bearer in this dark moment of our history. So don't stand on sidelines, walk front and center. Your community gains light and strength by your enthusiasm. I have traveled throughout the country and I have seen how enthusiastic the community is when friends like you, leaders like you, are the candle bearers, are walking front and center. In swing states like North Carolina, Georgia, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, Asian Americans have the power to make the difference. It's time to make sure Asian American voices are heard loud and clear. As said by our former President Obama, this election is the last stand. I apologize if my voice rises because this election is the last stand. Donald Trump and his administration has been harmful to women, to immigrants, Latinos, African Americans, and harmful to Asian Americans, harmful to America. And it is time we have new leaders in the White House. It's not enough to simply vote yourself. You have to work to energize AAPIs to vote. Find friends of yours in swing states who do not normally vote and get them to vote. Speak to them with the same conviction and energy that you demonstrated by attending today. This event tonight, they will feel that energy too. If you're not registered to vote, be sure to go to vote.gov to register and then take the time to make sure your family, friends, and community are also registered to vote. If possible, vote early. If you are deciding to vote in person, please plan in advance so you can participate safely and in timely manner. This country has given us so much. We can return one little favor by devoting our time, our energy to vote and ask our community, our friends, our family to vote this coming election. And if people resist voting, if they are not enthusiastic enough or think that it won't matter in this election, tell them, Kizer says, it does matter. I have been witness to last two elections, 16, 18, and 19 election. In Virginia, we did make the difference. After 20 years of Republican control on the Assembly of Virginia, House of Delegates and Senate, when we decided to come out and register and vote, after 20 years, Virginia Assembly and the Office of Governor is in the hands of Democrats who care for Virginians, represent Virginia values. We must turn out and vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Thank you, and I'm so honored to be joining you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Khan. We really appreciate that. Next, I want to introduce someone else that also doesn't need any introductions. I think many of you might already know her. She was a former Olympic figure skater and one of my favorite people and colleagues on our campaign, our campaign's director of surrogates, Michelle Kwan.
Thank you so much, Amit. And it's ditto, back to you. It is so wonderful to join this Zoom, this important time, especially with Neera, Mr. Khan. It's really an honor. And with all my colleagues, of course, and everybody tuning in. It's hard to believe, you know, there's 62 days left till Election Day. Amit, you and I have been on the campaign trail since the very, very beginning. We always knew it was going to be a marathon. And not to be like a sports, I have to because I'm a former Olympian analogy, but it's like a marathon and we're at mile 23. We've got a few more miles left. So we just have to keep going for it. You can't look at the polls. The polls show us up, but as we know, especially after 2016, that it will tighten. And trust me, the man in the White House with the red hat, his war chest is very large. Don't look at the polls. Don't look at, our tremendous, fundraising. I mean, it's great and it's worth celebrating, but there's still 62 days left. The last couple of weeks have been absolutely amazing with excitement of, Kamala Harris joining the ticket and all the convention activities and the RNC. But certainly Vice President Biden and Kamala are really a dynamic duo, and they'll be ready to tackle the work that is needed to heal our country and unify our country on day one of a Biden and Harris administration. I just like saying that, a Biden-Harris administration. Joe Biden's pick of Kamala Harris to be the running mate is historic in so many ways. She's the first Black woman and first ever Asian American vice presidential nominee on a major party ticket. And if elected, Kamala Harris will hold the highest elected office of any Asian American woman in history. As you know, representation matters. Just full stop. Representation matters. And we should want our elected officials to not just look like us, but to also speak to, with, and for us. I know that every little girl can see a little bit of themselves in Senator Harris, especially for young Black and Asian girls, young women of color across the nation who dreams of, one day serving their country too, and hoping that they too can make history in their own way. I love what Kamala said in some of her speeches, that Kamala's mother told her growing up, don't sit around and complain about things, do something, which is exactly what drives Kamala every single day to fight for all of us. I think these elections are rather personal for each and every one of you who jumped on the call today. And the reason why I jumped on the campaign on day one, because I often think of my parents who immigrated to the United States, with nothing, the idea of what we know as the American dream. My parents didn't speak very, very English very well, but, chasing that American dream, that if you work hard, you play by the rules, that your dreams can come true. And to me, our president's not fighting for everyone. He's just fighting for those just at the top. We need a president that keeps us safe, that will unify all of us, and somebody who's dedicated his entire life in public service, and that's Joe Biden. A Biden-Harris administration will nominate and appoint federal officials and judges who look like the rest of America, including hiring more Asian American Pacific Islander people in senior position. And most importantly, Joe and Vice President Biden and Kamala will ensure that AAPI people are at the table, at part of the decision making when policies and programs are being designed, and have a seat at the table, and build on the promise of the Obama-Biden initiative on AAPIs and strengthen the Pacific Island Task Force. This is why the AAPI community has to turn out to vote for this ticket. As we all know, as Mr. Kwan so eloquently put, AAPI voters are critical in this election. Us AAPIs could literally make a difference in close swing states like North Carolina, Georgia, Florida. I mean, all of them. So like Mr. Khan said, request your mail-in ballot. This is this last stand. Vote early if you can. Encourage your friends to vote. Hound them, badger them, give them at the same talk that I'm giving all of you. I certainly am, I'm working on the campaign as staff, but trust me, I am doing as much as I can. We're all influencers. Share why you support Biden-Harris ticket. Share it with your family, your aunties, your mom, your dad, your friends, your neighbors, everybody that you can talk to, at least safely, of course. Because AAPIs have really a responsibility to help turn the tide, and we could be the margin of victory, and so we must be. There's a lot at stake in these elections, and it's important that stories and lived experience of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders are heard. So thank you so much. And I will give it back to you, Amit.
Thanks so much for that, Michelle. Really appreciate that. Next, I want to turn it over to my other colleague, Howard O, who is our National Deputy AAPI and LGBTQ Director. Howard?
Hi, everybody. So happy to be here with everybody. That's Michelle Kwan and Kizer Khan and Amit are hard act to follow. Really happy that we're all together and we're all assembling to turn out the vote. Want to flag for you a couple events that we have that are upcoming. Yesterday, we had a Korean Americans for Biden event called Korean American Creatives. Awesome event. Tomorrow, actually tonight, 8 p.m., we have a South Asian Unity event by the South Asian Texans for Biden. Thursday, really action-packed. We have the Vietnamese Americans for Biden virtual kickoff event. We have an AAPIs for Biden Virginia lunch. We also have a Hindu Americans for Biden Preventing Hate Crimes and Protecting Mandirs event Thursday. We'll make sure that all the links will be sent out, but also listed in our social media. Thursday, we also have a conversation with South Asian Democrats in Georgia that we'll have a bit of a preview for. And then Friday, we have a DNC AAPI State Caucus Chairs Roundtable phone banking event. And Saturday, we have a Texas AAPI Women for Biden-Harris launch event. So as you can tell, we're ramping things up, lots of things for you guys to plug into. And I also have the honor of introducing two of our newest AAPI Coalition's AAPI directors. We have Sierra Yamanaka with Georgia, and we have Rusali Bongolan with Arizona. So really, really excited to introduce them.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sierra Yamanaka. I'm actually from Arizona, and I am a native Arizonan, and I think we all know how important Arizona is to this election this year. I've been an organizer in this state since 2014, and I've been able to see how much progress we've made here over the last several years to get Arizona to where it is today, just 62 days from turning blue, hopefully for good. My grandfather was interned during World War II, so I know how much is at stake in this election. We absolutely have to get Joe Biden elected, and Arizona is absolutely part of the path to victory to do that. We are having an exciting AAPI Day of Action on Sunday with a ton of events to plug into in the state, and we're excited about building lots of programming to come as we get ramped up here. So hope you will join us in turning Arizona blue.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rusali Bongolan. I am the Deputy Director for the AAPI community in Georgia. A little bit about me. I actually spent the last 10 years building my career in the world of tech, and due to the economy, thanks guy in the White House, I found myself on fun employment and decided that I would take this time into my own hands and dedicate myself 100% to getting folks who maybe weren't doing as much political work into phone banking, texting, and all that good stuff, and specifically in the state of Georgia. I'm excited to do it. Tomorrow, we will be having our first event in conjunction with South Asians for Biden. A bunch of tech, medicine, law field leaders will be sharing their voices on why they too, like myself, are joining in this fight for the soul of our nation. Coming up next week, we will be doing our phone banking with everybody, and so keep an eye out for more things to come.
Thank you all so much. And I just want to note that Rusali and Sierra join a total of 9 AAPI state directors across the country who are AAPI and doing outreach and engagement to the community. So that's very historic, and we're so proud of all our AAPI directors across the country. So thank you both for being here. We appreciate that. Lastly, I just want to thank everyone that joined us tonight. Really appreciate all your support, all your help. I know a lot of you have already been plugging in, phone banking, joining our events, engaging, telling your friends and family, and please continue doing that. Please continue telling folks to go to our website, aapisforjoe.com, to sign up for our mailing list, to get more resources, toolkits, etc. You can also, if you have your phone out, or you can tell your family and friends to text AAPI to 30330. That's AAPI to 30330. And lastly, I just want to point everyone towards our AAPI phone banks. Again, we're doing this across the country in many of the key battleground states where AAPIs have such a dense population where we can really, like Michelle and Mr. Khan and Neera have mentioned, really be the margin of victory here. So we hope you'll join our phone banks right after this program. Again, we're going to be having this program in our phone banking every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So please join us. Please invite your family and friends to join as well. And we're just looking for more supporters and more folks to help us with the direct voter contact. So with that, again, please join our phone banks directly after this program. We're also going to put a slide up where you can find the links. You should have also received them in your email confirmation as well. So with that, thank you again for joining us tonight. We really appreciate all your support and looking forward to seeing you in the phone banks. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye. Have a great day. Night. Bye.